let us talk about posture and movement and stance, because we have talked about vocals. We've touched upon movement, posture and stance a little bit in lessons, but I'm going to give you some words of vocabulary to describe certain characters: posture, their stance, their movement, their gait, G-A-I-T, the way they hold themselves, because these are indicative of emotion and character traits. So we could describe Mrs. Joe and her movement and her posture and her stance as being aggressive, alert, forbidding, stiff, hawkish, like being very hawkish, like the eyes of a hawk, seeing everything, which links to alert. She's always on the lookout. With tickler, to punish Pip. And that's what I would say for Mrs. Joe. Off the top of my head, I thought I had one more, but I don't, sorry. Now, for Mr. Joe, I would say he shrinks inwardly when Mrs. Joe is around. Even though he's a very tall man, he seems to become very small on stage. He would exhibit a tense, quite closed posture, cramped almost, hunched over, cowed, C-O-W-E-D, almost like this. He's very uncomfortable. He shrinks inwards, especially when his wife is around. She is the boss. She wears the trousers, as we say. She dominates the entire household, and she rules, not with an iron fist, but pretty much close to. I think she would stride about on stage, almost stamping her feet, constantly having her hands on her hips, waggling her finger, and moving on to Estella. Because in Great Expectations, there's this lovely scene description in chapter 8 when Pip describes the way that Estella talks to him as if she was as self-possessed as a queen, or as though she was 21 years old and as self-possessed as a queen. So I'd say she'd have this very regal body language, very elegant, very graceful, precise, dignified, perhaps quite hypnotic. She's always associated with this candle. There's this candle she holds in front of herself, and so the rest of her would be shrouded in a lot of darkness, but just her beautiful face would be in the light, and that in itself could make her seem very hypnotic, perhaps. So very dignified, graceful, proud, haughty, H-A-U-G-H-T-Y. She would look down her nose at Pip, and she would lead from here, so everything about her would move this way. She'd be led by her chin or her nose, because she's very haughty and proud and self-possessed as a queen, as Dickens described her. It's such a wonderful book. I really should reread it. Anyway, back to the script. Magwitch, slouching, broken, defensive, furtive. Furtive are those quick searching, terrified looks that you give over your shoulder when you're hiding something. Okay, Mr. Pumblechook, flamboyant, self-righteous. He would stand with his legs really wide apart. He would lead from his stomach. Mrs. Havisham, wooden, rigid, bent over, almost immovable, the physical embodiment of her sadness, her bitterness, her hatred, which has hardened and wizened her body, W-I-Z-E-N-E-D, over time, like some warped wood. And she has this warped mind, like this wood has rotted and it's gone bent over out of shape. Okay, yes, I think that's enough now. Nearly 5 minutes describing posture, movement and stance and the gait of your characters. Those are just some terms to use. They aren't exhaustive, but hopefully that's a start for you and something to bear in mind.